I'm not going to start with any easy questions.
What would you do if you couldn't fail?
I was vulnerable in the sense of I was just who I was.
The cold exposure conditions the inside of our body to literally adapt.
Whatever happens in the gut happens in the brain, and whatever happens in the brain happens in the gut.
Finding the grace and the humor.
Anti-aging is associated with at least an hour of deep sleep nightly.
Absolutely had mentors, absolutely 100% had coaches.
90+% of the decisions that we make today actually stem from fear.
Allow ourselves to have imperfection.
Nothing starts without a plan, nothing ever goes to plan.
Chaga is actually the most antioxidant rich food on the planet.
If we can bring a practice into our lives that helps us be more vulnerable. I'm so thrilled that this content is getting out there, that you guys are promoting bold and vulnerable message and aspirations for people, because I hope that we can all really live that every day.
Hey, this is Jessica.
And Svetlana, and you're listening to the Bold and Vulnerable Podcast,
where we aim to inspire others to live authentically through sharing the bold and vulnerable stories of peak performers across a variety of industries. Hey guys, it's Jessica here, and you know I love my coffee. We have recently partnered with a company called La Repubblica Coffee. They are completely fair trade, they are non-GMO and all vegan, which you guys know I'm vegan, so I'm totally a fan. But the cool thing is that this is a mushroom coffee company. You know, sometimes people feel stuck in their coffee routine. They feel like they can't live with it, they can't live without it. Maybe coffee makes them feel overwhelmed. This coffee completely makes you feel so zen. It gives you a peace of mind and well-being and a clean energy jolt. You don't have any jitters that you get with coffee because the cordyceps really help to regulate the intake of caffeine from the coffee. It's a rich source of vitamin D, E, and many other things that help your immune function and optimal health. It's a perfect way to incorporate high beneficial superfoods into your morning routine. I love to start my morning with just a smooth cup.
This morning, I was so freaking excited because I ordered my bulk order. I'm telling you, George and I were literally waiting by the door yesterday. I'm not joking. And finally they came at like 7 and we were so excited, and George and I were like, should we drink this now?
Yeah, listeners, you guys are going to be so excited because you get 15% off all of your orders by using the code vulnerable, all caps 15. So vulnerable 15, all caps.
We only partner with companies that we believe in here at Bold and Vulnerable because we really value honesty and just being truthful to our audience. Being a working mom and entrepreneur, you really want to have all the hacks possible at your fingertips. So I'm so freaking excited to be partnering with this company.
Everyone that I've talked to who's tried it has been raving about how delicious it is. And we drink it during our podcast episodes, and just to give us a jolt of energy. It has 7 superfood mushrooms. So not only do you get the benefits and energy of your cordyceps, but you also get the healthy benefits of lion's mane. It gives you so much focus and immunity support. You also get this really nutrient-rich product that elevates your focus and also elevates your gut. So it's almost like using a smart blend of quality chaga, reishi, shiitake, turkey tail, and your immune system just gets this daily boost of energy. And it also helps to alkalize the effects of coffee's natural acidities.
Yeah, definitely. And what I really love about it is that they have a gold standard for their manufacturing, which I think is really important, which tells us that they have high standards, obviously, as do we here at Bold and Vulnerable. The benefits that you're receiving in 1 cup of coffee are just outstanding.
It's kind of like an anti-inflammatory for your body, which is absolutely amazing. And not only that, it has a wonderful taste. So I think that's everything that people are looking for. Even people that don't drink coffee, I think will probably enjoy the taste of La Repubblica coffee.
We have a discount code for you. It is all caps vulnerable 15.
Head over to larepublicasuperfoods.com and type in vulnerable 15. When you check out, you will receive a 15% discount on all of La Repubblica's mushroom coffee.
Get yourself an amazing adaptogenic cup of coffee. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bold and Vulnerable Podcast. I am here today with a really special guest, and a friend and a mentor of mine. He goes by the name Scott Martin. I'm really excited to introduce you guys to this person because he really is an expert in his field when it comes to anything marketing and growing your brand and your business and doing it really in a sustainable way. And I feel like he's coined that term sustainability because he really is, I'd say, a master at it. I've seen him grow multiple companies and grow his own company, and he's helped me with my branding. So I'm really excited to have him on, and I'm just going to let Scott take it away.
Aloha. That's a Canadian. I say aloha almost every time I start my podcast. So it's like, even though I'm Canadian, I still like to say that. So I like to introduce my podcast with that, just because I think I grew up actually for a period of time in Hawaii, and it's just I think it's just like the most welcoming of greetings you could possibly have. Just makes you feel good, especially given the times that we're in right now. It's a little bit rough times, so it's a nice way to start the day.
It's so welcoming. Aloha, Scott.
Thank you. So where would you like to start?
Why don't you just tell our listeners a little bit more about yourself, your journey, your background,
Sure.
how you got to where you are.
Okay. Well, I'm a Canadian, and so don't hold that against me. Canadian who's lived in the Great White North, but always been dreaming of the warm South. I left high school at an early age to pursue a windsurfing career in Hawaii. And I have an interesting journey that I went on in life where I was traveling around and surfing and working in the hospitality industry. And through a interesting set of events, I won't detail what happened, but I was deported off the island of the Cayman Islands. And I was basically left at the airport with $80 in my pocket, and I ended up going to a local store and buying with my $80 some junk food and a book called Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And reading that book, I that morning when the ticket counter opened, I applied everything I'd learned reading that book overnight and ended up convincing somebody from American Airlines. The first airlines turned me down, but someone from American Airlines actually said, "Mr. Martin, you're going to fly home." And they ended up flying me home. And that just sort of started a trajectory of me realizing the power of reading a book and just being absolutely blown away by Tony Robbins' first book, that I just did a deep dive into ferocious reading, which to this day, ironically, I just discovered. I had read so many books and I was so obsessed with making sure I learned it. I actually collected cue cards. And the cue cards, I'd actually, every time I wrote notes, sometimes you write in a book, you highlight or underscore it. I actually, not only did I underscore and highlight all the books I read, but I actually wrote out those quotes in a cue card. And Jill was my wife, saw these. She goes, "What is this?" And I have 3 huge tins of these things, and they're filled with notes. And I can't believe how many hundreds of hours that I'm literally looking at right now. So it made me think of it, because I'm thinking of what to do with it. Maybe turn it into a podcast, or maybe it's an Instagram series or something like that. So, anyways, as I was reading went on this journey of reading all these books. I was fortunate enough to work with one of the owners of a restaurant chain in Canada. It's called Earl's. They're a very high-end, very well-respected customer service company, and I got to work directly with the owner. And he sort of was my first mentor, and that mentor really started guiding me towards the type of books of business and marketing, not just self-improvement. And at the exact same time was when the internet was just coming on scene, and through relationship with my dad, I had met this guy that was talking about the internet and how you can get on it. And I ended up working very quickly as a salesperson for this gentleman, selling websites when people were still trying to figure out what was a website. And I did so well within the first 6 months that they ended up spinning me into a separate company and turning me into a .com startup. And in a matter of 3 years, I had gone from literally being a bartender to running my own company with, I think I had about 15 employees. We were called NextClick, and I had done a deep dive in a category of marketing called personalization, which is one-to-one marketing, and which is now I guess you could say, the predecessor to AI. And at such an early age, I had also and the dot-com boom, anybody remembers that, things were crazy, money was thrown around. And even though I was quite excited about the one-to-one marketing personalization technologies and marketing, I had also recognized that there was a need for personally identifiable information protection. And through some mentorship, so I had my investors and other people who were really successful in the dot-com world had coached me, and I started my own nonprofit industry group called the Personalization Consortium. And this was in my early 20s. And we filed with the FTC. We had huge advertising networks. We had PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, United Airlines, American Airlines, and I was president of the board. It was absolutely massive. And I look back now and I have no idea how I did it. I don't know if anybody's ever listening and just going, you look at your youth and you sometimes do things because you have no preconceived notion of it. You don't overthink what work would be involved. And I look back now and like, if knowing what I know today, there's zero chance, because I knew how much work that was, but I had so much unbridled enthusiasm that I ended up doing that. And that went on for a couple of years. I ended up getting me publishing in multiple magazines, articles, and my company and everything, of course, ended with the dot-com crash. And that was the first of my experiences that led to my whole sustainable growth marketing that you alluded to, which was really experiencing that gut punch of, we were not prepared. We did not know what I had to deal with, the deep sting of letting people go. In fact, I actually embraced it. I actually ended up going to the news, talking about, what we did. My advice my father would give me at the time was to stick with the company to the very end. Don't just, go look for a job. And I did. And it was really good. It taught me a lot of lessons about like not wanting to ever have to go through that again. And skipping ahead, about 6 years, I ended up starting my own company that I had around for 10 years, working with large brands, airlines, U.S. companies like Detroit Pistons and WestJet, Best Buy, different brands. And it was a great, successful company. It was focused on direct response marketing. And that's kind of been the journey, is where I've always been focused on on marketing that was measurable. Personalization when it came out, and direct response marketing. We were really just focusing on measuring anything and everything we possibly could, and really focusing that as the niche of marketing. And when I sold that business after 10 years, it was really more a parting of the ways of philosophy. At that point in time, content marketing wasn't happening, but I was already doing content marketing, and social media had come on. And I was really fascinated with keep evolving. And so when I sold the company, I just kind of did a deep dive in building content marketing. I had started marketing the industry called heli skiing and cat skiing Canada, which was really just a front for me getting lots of free powder, heli skiing and cat skiing. But I was producing a lot of content. And from that, I gleaned so many amazing lessons about how to recycle, how to stretch out content, and basically how to avoid using paid advertising, and how to use content to generate business for people. And all those things that I'm mentioning are all have led in towards, 2008 came up and another crash happened. And I think this last crash is when I was already starting to really recognize the sustainable growth marketing techniques. But when the 2008 crash came, when I was working for a film production company, was when I sort of made that last stand, where I was like, at the end of that downturn, I decided I was going to go work for myself and start Groundswell with the total aim at helping businesses be sustainable and impervious to these downturns. And so here we are today. We were just talking, hey guys, like just before, about the coronavirus and where we are today. And had my book that I'm working on right now been published in 2008, it would have been very much a little too late, if you will. And I'm readjusting some of the language to be a little softer in tone, because in my book, I was reading it and reading it this weekend, was realizing I was having a little bit of a strong tone with people going, you don't realize that until you're in it, how much you need to prepare for your business and how to diversify, everything from platforms to marketing to different advertising and so forth. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm in the middle of writing my book, and I've launched my Groundswell Marketing podcast, which is wildly successful. I have, some of the top marketers in the world. And the topic I'm really focused on and what I'm really obsessed with is helping entrepreneurs gain control and lead their business and have an understanding of it, not to become the marketer, but I'm really working with entrepreneurs to understand marketing so they can sustainably manage their business. And so that's where I am today.
Wow, fascinating.
That was a long rant.
Yeah, no, but I think it's important for people to know where you came from and how you got to where you are, and your journey. And just the fact that you said you have no idea how you did it, and how you look back at it and you're kind of like, how did I do all of that? And you went into it, like you said, with no preconceived notion and just enthusiastic, and you achieved so much in such a short time. And I think it's pretty fascinating as well. Did you have your kids back then too?
I did. I mean, so my kids now are 21 and 23. And through when I launched my company, I actually was going through a divorce at that time, and I was a single parent. And my daughter was 4, my son was 6 at the time, or 5. And yeah, and that's I basically raised them more or less. I mean, their mom was around and stuff, but for the most part, they were with me full time, and I was juggling that while running my company.
Yeah, so I wanted to highlight that as well, because I think that that's pretty amazing.
It is, but it isn't. I know people always they always go, yeah, it's so amazing, and you couldn't imagine it. But I'll gotta tell you, in some ways, I actually think it might have been easier. And here's why: is any parent that's listening is sometimes they have the struggle between both parents, where one parent has a way of raising their child, and there's another way, and then if your child is you're kind of having both the battle of sort of ideology with the kid sometimes, not all the time, but also your child has a different way of being between both you, and how things run. When it was me by myself, I got to settle the rules. There was nobody really to get in the way of that. And so I of course was doing crazy stuff. Literally, I'd have the house to myself, where we'd build this Lego land that probably would never be allowed in anybody's normal. But I was a single dad. We could just totally take over the whole kitchen and leave it for a week at a time, or build a fort, in the front living room, and it would just stay there. So I did stuff that probably would not be normal, and it was super fun to do. And plus, I actually continued traveling. I was surfing. I took my kids on. My kids had more travel than almost anybody did as an adult. I mean, I think by the time they were 15, they'd been to Australia twice for several months at a time. I'd rented a beach house, and we just went surfing, building castles. I did 2 different trips at that length. We went to Central America, South America, Caribbean, Disneyland 4 times. So I literally made the decision that I was going to just live my life and just travel with my kids.
I love that. I feel like one of the best ways to teach your kids and to really teach them about cultures is to travel, to take them places. I don't think any school can really teach you that. I think you have to travel.
It is, but then it skews. My kids became they begin none of their friends had traveled at all, right? So they began to think this is just normal life. I'm like, no, you guys have no idea. So it almost in some ways, sure, it got them culture, but they're also they're these jet setters. They're like, what? Let's just go fly to They just point a place. Let's go to Italy. And it's going down the street for 7-Eleven. So it's sort of in some ways I spoiled them, but I think that's a good spoil,
Yeah, I think that's a great spoil. Some parents spoil them with lots of toys and cars and stuff like that. I feel like the way that you did it is pretty awesome. And I feel like, I think that it's pretty epic, being a single dad and to run your business and your businesses and to raise your kids on your own. I mean, say what you want. You're like, oh, it's really not that big of a deal. I think that, I have my daughter now, and it's a lot of work, your life is just completely different. And also the Legoland thing, that's pretty fucking awesome, dude. I love Legos, so I can't wait to build Legos with my daughter.
Oh yeah. No, that's me too. I was a Lego. That's one toy I didn't mind, spending more money than maybe most parents would have. This is just good for the brain.
Yeah, no, I think I completely agree with you on that. I have a Lego set that I'm building right now. It's my little Mickey Mouse sailor one. I'm not done with it. I have finished half of it, but anyways, little rant there. So going back to, what you said about what's happening right now with this whole COVID-19 and how the economy is kind of turned, and, what your focus is to really help businesses. essentially sustain themselves throughout these times and prepare for this, right? Like, what would be some of your tips to the listeners that might be really struggling right now?
Yeah, it would not be about sustainability. It'd be about rapid ideation and cash flow management, because most businesses that are listening are probably at this point, even for the foreseeable near future, really cash crunched. And I think probably even a bigger question is, how does a business adapt to this new reality? I think we got three waves, right? The first wave is right now, and we're in it right now, which is it's shock and awe. Like, what do we do? What's going on? Like, things are changing by the day. You don't know when it's going to end. There's too much change, and it's paralyzing business owners, entrepreneurs, and everybody, really. So it's like, it's hard to make a decision. So it's like, what you're trying to do is trying to stop the bleeding, or you don't know if you can stop the bleeding, because you want to, if it bounces back, you want to keep your employees. Like, there's all these decisions. So I believe that this first wave is the shock and awe, which is most people are turtling, or they're just waiting. And probably the best advice I could suggest is, I've got an article called Adaptive Ideation. Maybe in your show notes, you could put a link to it. I basically break down how you can sort of like logically pull apart this as a problem to kind of like de-emphasize and focus your prioritization of cash and efforts. And it really, it's like, think of it as a scale to 1 to 5. 1 being mild, disruption to business, and 5 being total disruption. Well, we're already at level 5. So that's not helpful now. But would be helpful is thinking about right now to help you is not just because you don't know the end or when it's going to change, but what you can do is do a reverse. What would happen? What would you be willing to do on a 4, 3, 2, 1, and just make a scale for whatever that is for you as an individual business, right? 4 might mean, okay, I'm going to bring 1 employee back. A 3 might mean, we're going to renegotiate our lease or whatever. Like, you just work it backwards, because I think what a lot of people don't realize is that to get the cash flow on an emergency, 1 is starting with your mindset. If your mindset and you're overly worried, you won't make good decisions. So the first step would be just make everything real and don't let things be a story. So first of all, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react. So maybe just start defining, well, when things happen, here's the steps that I'm going to take. That'll give you a little better control of your mindset. The second thing is meditate. I think that doing, whether it's Tony Robbins priming or whatever, putting some emphasis on what you're grateful for. I think a lot of people are so focused and just decoupling yourself from the news, and focus on just getting a lay of your land, getting a lay of your business expenses, driving down what you can, and really focusing on cash flow. Just like do like a bit of a pro forma over the next couple of months. And that's like number 1. Like right now, I think getting a sense of, like, call it reality check. That's phase 1. Wave 2 is the short-term reality. We're about to enter this, which is, some of us are probably already comfortable with it, or it's already becoming the norm, which is the new midterm. The new midterm wave is where we're going, okay, this is going to be here a while. How do I adjust my business, and how am I going to be working from home? So I think probably that we're probably just on the edge of being from shock and awe to maybe some people are already there, and some people are still in shock and awe, and they're binging on Netflix. Unless of course they're diligently trying to, I'm not suggesting everyone's binging on Netflix, but some people are just kind of waiting it out, if you will. This next phase is going to be a reality. And this is one that I think is really important. This mid wave is, I think it's already bringing to bear that it's not going to be business as usual. So you're working from home. That's a new reality. But your customers aren't buying. Your customers' mindsets are different. People now are almost like, I remember doing Zooms, and there are people that still didn't know how to use the Zoom or had never used it. I'm pretty sure that the majority of people are going to have been on a Zoom, and if they aren't already using it regularly, that's going to change human behavior. The concern of people not knowing what's going on is also changing people's behavior. So that's why they're worried about falling into depression or recession, because consumer habits are no longer going to be bullish about spending money. So now it's going to shift the way that we buy. Traditional advertising, the language, the messaging, the marketing is going to be different. So as a business owner, you're going to think very differently. And what you're seeing is, it's almost like, how many of you have your inbox filled with COVID-19 and how we're coping? to me, it's the most ridiculous thing that's coming in the inbox. And why? I think you have more time than ever to look at your inbox. And when you see that and you see it's the same message that everybody's saying at the same time, Laura Belgrade put an amazing Instagram post that says, we need to flatten the curve of free and helpful information. It's like, we're almost like overly, inundated with this stuff. And that's more of an opportunity of someone unsubscribing. What I'm suggesting is looking at how has human behavior changed in my business and what I'm doing. How can I go to meet and maybe change what I'm offering or the way that I'm messaging it? And is it even appropriate? Maybe now is not the time to be selling. Maybe now is the time to be building trust. Because in a crisis, what does human behavior do? You look for advice from people you trust. So you focusing on that will guide you to maybe how this midterm, how you need to be marketing, addressing, or talking to this market. And I've actually even said in my book, and you can listen to my podcast, I've always said that we're shifting from basically an attention economy to a trust economy. And here we are. I think it just pushed us so hard in that direction. The second thing is, it's human. Like, people are doing more FaceTime. I think, and I just wrote an article yesterday and I just published it. It's called Face-to-Face Marketing, the new norm. It's going to be a new category. I believe that this face-to-face marketing is going to, they said that 25% of people are going to stay at home still as a result of this. Like, just that alone, that's going to shape the way that people are buying, marketing, and doing business. So this whole face-to-face marketing, really getting your head around it. How can you find yourself where you're in more conversation? And I think that really brings me to, the face-to-face is great, which is the technology between creating true communication and collaboration and stuff between people within a business or outside of it. But I think in the end, because we've also, in the third piece is, we've all been starved of human connection. We're isolated. This is going to create some interesting things. And I think the biggest thing is higher craving for human interactions. I think all the marketing automation, all the marketing advertising styles and funnels and all stuff, it's going to die hard. It's not going to go away permanently. It's just going to die hard. It's just going to change dramatically, because people, I think, are going to be almost going, I want to talk to a human. They want more empathetic human interactions. And so I believe that those are three big things that are going to be things that you can put your attention to in this midterm. And then in terms of your business, is doing a rapid ideation about what can you do for alternative revenue sources. So for example, I was working with a clinic, and we did this ideation session first on the immediacy of what they need to do to manage. And back then it was when they still had people attending their clinics. And we created the phase 2, which they're in right now, which is actually having everybody working remotely and doing teleconferencing, physiotherapy, doctors, and so forth. And then they're going to start producing content that's going to be valuable, share, or gated and stuff. And because now they have a chance and opportunity to do it. So I would say, if you can, start thinking about the next phase, which is the new. If you can, in this middle phase, if you aren't just in pure survival cash flow, if you can divert some of your attention and really think about how I can, remember I talked to the scale 1 to 5, working it backwards, going, how can we go from a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? This new is something that nobody really knows. And I don't yet have a clear picture. I don't think anybody does, what this is going to look like. I mean, look after 9/11, how travel changed. I think that after this, so many things are going to change. And so I'm really focusing on how you can meet this new change and paying really close attention to how people are thinking, buying, believing what they need. And I think that now more than ever, we're going to see maybe almost like a shift into minimalism and essentialism and do more with less. I think we're going to see a huge shift as a result of what's going on. So that's kind of what I would have businesses do, is really just break it up into 3 categories: where we are now, shock and awe; a midterm, where it's like, what are we going to do in this mid period time? And then when things sort of start thawing out and going back to normal, what is that going to look like? And if you can start thinking about and really kind of reaching out that way, I think you're going to find your way out.
Hey listeners, quick interruption to your podcast. For those of you that can't see Svetlana and I right now, we both have coffee mugs in our hand and we are always sipping on our La Repubblica coffee. And you guys can actually enjoy the benefits and the adaptogens and all the beautiful qualities of this coffee as well, because they are actually our partners and our sponsors.
Well, I'm obviously sipping on my La Repubblica coffee right now. I can't do a podcast interview without it. Nothing really works the way that this stuff works. There really is something in this coffee, and I mean it's the mushrooms, it's the reishi that gives you sort of like that zen feel.
I know it's wintertime right now, and if you guys maybe are feeling a little stuffy or feel a little tingle in your throat, this is the perfect elixir that can not only fight a common cold, but it helps your skin glow, your hair grow thicker, and reduces inflammation in your body. Chaga is amazing. It also contains cordyceps for better performance and increased energy, but not the crash that coffee might give you from a caffeine standpoint.
Combating mom brain and fatigue right now, it's really helping me maintain focus and maintain that sustainability that I need to get on throughout my day, especially with a newborn and running multiple businesses.
You guys are going to love this coffee. Not only does it have the 7 adaptogenic mushroom extracts, but it will certainly transform your morning coffee ritual. And it's really something that you can integrate really easily into your peak performance habits.
I can attest to La Repubblica's coffee being one of the best elixirs that I've tried thus far, and I have tried several. I never, ever, ever talk about products unless I love them. If you guys are interested, we do have a discount code. It is
vulnerable, all caps 15. So vulnerable 15. Head over to larepublicasuperfoods.com and type in vulnerable 15. When you check out, you will receive a 15% discount on all of La Republica's mushroom coffee. Thanks for listening. Go grab your 15% discount. And now back to our episode. Thank you for all that wisdom. And, I think you hit the nail on the head. You've got to have innovation going on, but you also need to focus on alternative revenue sources and diversifying. And I think you really touched on having trust and building upon your current network, because I think, right now to cold call or to sell or to try and create trust with people is going to be a lot harder. But you brought it back to something that I think is really wonderful, and that's all about mindset. And you've mentioned Tony Robbins a few times with Awaken the Giant Within, that changed your life. And, I also saw that you went to Business Mastery University, Leadership Academy, Platinum Partner. I think that mindset and that gratitude that you were talking about is going to be a huge part of what becomes essential when you're talking about minimalism. That is going to be the biggest thing that people can turn to really find their inner strength. And I'm just curious because, in preparing for this COVID-19, I didn't know I was preparing, but years back, I read Money Master the Game and I read Unshakable, and, I'm reading all these finance books and trying to prepare for what if finances go down, what if the economy takes. And I think there's some people out there that were preparing financially, and then when things hit, they might freak out or make a rash decision with their money or pull out of the stock market or things like that. And I know that you've kind of been a little bit more in your messaging about working smarter. So is there anything you can say to folks in terms of mindset when they're looking at gaining control of financials and those alternative revenue sources, but also making sure they're diversifying, or maybe even this might be the time to invest if they have the money to do it? I'm curious on your take on financials and really trying to kind of balance an ecosystem in a business between what are these alternative revenue sources, what can happen in terms of financials if they're investing their money maybe in the stock market or real estate or wherever their investments are, and how mindset plays into that.
Okay, sure. I'm no investor Jedi or anything, but I've, maybe to take a little step back, like I've invested, I think last year, I probably spent $180,000 minimum, maybe $200,000 in self-development, and a lot of it with Tony Robbins Platinum Partners, traveling around the entire world every 3 weeks. I was in a different place, and so I've been to multiple business masteries, coaching, private events with Tony. And of course, he has some of his speakers that are some of my guests and some of the people that they have side events, and we've done some additional training. And so I would say when this all came down, for the first time in my life, I wasn't filled with any fear. Because not just because I've been preparing for it, but because I've been preparing my mind. I feel like I just came out of some sort of Marine boot camp with Tony Robbins, and like me and a bunch of my other plat buddies were like, oh yeah, here it is. Like, okay. And I have not even, I can honestly say this. I mean, this sounds, I don't want anyone to think that I'm not being empathetic to if they're concerned, but it does play a big role in is your mindset. Is like what I've learned is when you control your mindset, you can make better decisions, and you can really, it's also energetically, like if you believe in that at all, it's like when someone's really filled with energy and positive energy, do you want to be with them, or if someone has negative energy, do you want to be away from them? Well, that's the same in life, and it's whether it's through face-to-face FaceTime or whatever, that energy exists. Like people feel your energy before you're in the room or get on a podcast. What kind of energy are you exuding for yourself, for your family, and starting there first? And if you're a business owner with employees, setting that tone. So it does start, I think you're right, it completely starts with mindset before anything else. And so, in fact, we just started our first tranche of investment this morning. We did our first tranche, and we're basically spreading out our investment over the course of the next 4 months, because this is when we decided that we've been preparing for this, and we're actually in a full buy position. And I'm in hyper growth. I'm looking at probably hiring. I'm going the opposite direction, and that's probably a good lesson for anybody. Is like if you look at where do things cost the most, and where things are cluttered, is look at going the opposite of what everyone else is doing. Like think of the person that's waiting, in traffic going to work, and the person that just left their office while everybody else is going into downtown. Like that's kind of a little bit where my brain always has been recently, because I'm looking at that's where the sweet opportunities are. And that is where things can be less expensive and you get a higher return. So a higher impact, lower investment. So even in this environment, look at what people are, what's his name say? It's like when people are fearful, get greedy. And when people are greedy, get fearful, and that's Warren Buffett. And, it's like, that's right now we're in fearful. So if you have money to invest, and you can make sure you don't expose your family and so forth, like it's an amazing time to invest. I mean, more people have made more money in a downturn than you can in a bull market. And so, but it might be hard for a lot of people to even, they're going, yeah, great, thanks. Now I'm here's where I am. So I would just really go, there is no better time than, even if you put a little bit in, just even putting the smallest of smallest amounts, just knowing that you did something was part of building your mindset. And, it's no different than making your bed when you get out of bed. So for knowing that you just did something, accomplished something, or getting up early every day, those are the small wins that you can give yourself, even when you're, a bit downtrodden. I get up every day at 4:45, and I do meditation, and I start my day. And I do it also because it gives me the invisible extra Energizer Bunny boost, because I feel like I'm up before most people, and it just gives me a little edge. It's like, feel free to use like mindset, getting healthy and different things like that to give you a bit of edge when you're feeling really down. And so but it really, everything starts with mindset, whether you're going to be investing or how you're going to manage, your finances within your business. It really does. And that's probably the biggest thing I've learned over the course of this past, it's been a 3-year journey with Tony Robbins. Like I've invested over the course of 3 years, like I don't even want to discuss it, but this whole past year has absolutely, prepared me for, this environment.
Can we maybe dive into your most vulnerable moments, whether it's personal or professional, you choose, but was there ever a time in your life where you went through adversity and you felt the most vulnerable? And can you share that moment or series of moments with us, and how you got through that?
Well, I mean, so many. I mean, going through a divorce, would have been probably the most. But more recently, I went through. I was in Australia, and I went by myself to an event called Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins in Australia, and I almost like it wasn't a vulnerability that was like situational, where it's kind of like something happened to me external and then I became vulnerable. I actually created a vulnerability. So, and that's kind of, I know it seems really interesting, but it's like, I basically went to that event, and it's like, you hear the same advice over and over again. We've all heard what I'm about to share with you. And it's like, you almost go, yeah, but you don't really do anything about it. And the advice that I've heard repeatedly from Tony Robbins, different people, was that put your relationship first, and your business will grow, and you'll be more successful, you'll be happier, and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, happy wife, happy life, all that kind of stuff, I'm sure. And I was really going, well, am I really making my relationship my number one? Is that true? And I'm like thinking about, well, if the phone rings, I would go, hey, I got a business call. I got to, stop what I'm doing. I got to take the call. And she'd be like, yeah, no problem. I mean, she was great with it. But the reality was that she was second to my business. And so, what I did at Date with Destiny was I decided it's basically a 5-day event. It's a signature event. If you watch a movie called Awaken the Giant, or I'm Not Your Guru, he kind of, that's the documentary about that process. And it's like basically redesigning and architecting your life and your values and stuff. So I set out purposefully to make myself vulnerable, to go, what if I actually did this? What if I actually reconfigured my values and made my relationship my number one? And I can say on the other side of that, I mean, it was kind of tough, because you had to be really freaking honest with yourself about what that would look like. And for a guy, it's like, it's a big change. And so the only way to do it is to actually not just secretly do it. I had to pick up the phone, call Jill, and say, this is what I'm doing. And, hold some accountability to it, and create some routines that supported it. And to be honest with you, it was best decision of my life. And it transformed our relationship. It transformed my business. We would regularly have, every day, we have what's called date night. It's at 8:30 at night, and we have depending on what she wants to do on one night and what I would do on one night, we just kind of go back and forth, and it really creates a space where we're able to really come together and build a relationship with it. And that's great. And so I can look back and go, hey, that was phenomenal. We ended up we were engaged at the time. That was 6 months before we were getting married. And it got us going into our getting married in Hawaii in December, or sorry, in October. And that's great. And when we got married, after we got married, she decided that things were going so good with my business that she was going to just work with me full time. And this is where the real vulnerability comes in, is, after all that work and all that change and stuff, we went through what I would say is a very rocky 3 months after our honeymoon phase, I think it would be. And what we had to relearn was a totally different set of tools. And this is maybe relevant to where we are in times, is that I had figured out how to master our relationship, but we weren't working together. It's a totally different language when it's like, hey, you go to work and I'll see you in 8 hours and stuff. But to going and actually trying to interact and do business and communicate, and it's shift between being a married couple and being boss and partner and all that kind of stuff. It's a totally different world. And we're just now, so that's like, we started really trying to figure out how we're going to do this, because it was just getting really crazy in December and January and even February. And it's just now, it's taken us months to really start finding our way back. And we're not there 100% yet, of course. So, but we're on the right path. And I guess to anyone sitting out there that's listening, is like, how many people are really struggling with, they've never actually had to spend or work together or work in the house with the kids in the house and all that stuff. It's a totally new set of tools. And what I would say is, when you take more responsibility for how the other person's feeling and preemptively do things to, demonstrate that you care, and try to like really soften the communication. I'm sort of summarizing so many different things that I've been learning, but it's really understanding that there's no possible way that everybody can be getting along and everything can be harmonious, but there certainly can be a way that you can limit the amount of friction. And it's really thinking about the male the masculine and feminine energy. And it's really just understanding that, you know, we may talk differently, we may, you know, think differently, but we kind of want the same thing. And if you really look at the other person's perspective and try to do more deep listening with the other person, that can guide you to really some great places. And that's the shortest. I mean, to me, it's such a longer conversation. I'd really strongly recommend reading like something from Alison Armstrong or something, which is like completely like decoding how we talk with each other. But there's so many great books out there. And as a guy, start reading relationship books. Even just the fact you're making the effort is a big win. So, you know, and I can say from most guys, they go, why would you be talking about this? It's like, it legitimately helps you with your business. It's going to make you happier, more productive. And when I'm happy at this level, I'm creating way better content and way better thinking.
I love that you just mentioned Alison Armstrong. My fiance and I are going through her programs right now, and they're absolutely wonderful. So
She's incredible, hey?
Yeah. Oh my God, just such a wise woman. Oh, Svetlana, is that Mia?
Oh, hello.
Oh my gosh, sorry guys, George handed her off to me because we have movers coming, so little interruption from the.
It just makes it real.
You can see her right here.
Oh, hi there. Hi, little thing.
But yeah, thank you for mentioning Alison Armstrong for sure. I remember going through her program after Date with Destiny, which is where we met, and that completely transformed my relationship with George. I feel like it saved it on one hand, like it really did, because I was in a completely different headspace, and now we're in a different place too with the baby. We're both kind of like, all right, we need to reconfigure our relationship now because things are so different.
Yeah, it's always going to keep changing, you know. As the kids get older, then they come out of the house, you know, and they end up working together. It's always a moving target.
Yeah. I had no idea that you and Jill had that 3-month rough patch. I mean, we haven't talked in a while, but I'd be interested to learn even more about how you guys, you know, what sort of agreements you came to towards like working together, or any advice you have for even, I know this is kind of like on a different topic, but it's pretty vulnerable. Like, you know, when you're a parent and you have to, you know, you're going through this time and you're running a business and you have a little one, you know, you go through these different seasons and things just shift and change. And I guess you and Jill were just in a different season, and now you both are doing great. And I guess for like the parents out, like the people out there that might be listening that have families or a little one, and you gave advice for guys like just learning in a relationship, do you have any advice on like how to enhance your relationship when you have, like, let's say a baby or kids?
I can tell you a little trick for dads and parents when it came to my kids, because I was by myself. I had to figure out a way, my kids always want my attention, and I couldn't figure it out because they wouldn't leave me alone when I was trying to work. And you'll find as your daughter gets older that when they start getting in that, you know, 3 to 6 years old, they're just constantly going to be wanting your attention. And if you don't have their attention, they're going to just know it, and they're going to try to like test you and stuff for your attention. So I did what's called jackpotting. I think I learned later is what it is. You do it with your pets. But so what I would do is I tried little tests, and what I figured out was, if I came home and I started going, and I just basically said, I just went straight to play. Like I'd always pick up my kids at school, and I'd play with them, and I would basically like just go crazy and play with them like often. And for the first week, I didn't think it was going to end, like where they were like, no, we're good. You know, like they just wanted all my attention because they didn't really have it. But after about a week or so, I remember them started going, hey, you know, like, and I'd be like, hey, let's go do this and stuff. And they'd be like, yeah, you know, or it's okay if we just go watch cartoons or something, you know, and you know, and over time it became less and less and less time. And I think what I learned was that the kids, they just knew that I was there, and to the point where I think I got it down where they'd be like, I'd be like, hey, do I play? They'd be like, no, we're good. We're going to go upstairs, play Lego, you know, and I'd go work and they'd leave me alone. And I think it was because they knew that I was available to them, and I made myself available. And I did that up front. And that was like a little, I don't know. I don't know if that's would work for all parents. I just know that that's worked for me. You know, and it's like, you know, I just call it, I have 1,000 different names for 1,000 different hugs, and just hug my kids. When in doubt, I just hug my kids.
Did you say hug your kids?
Yeah.
Oh, I love
If
that.
you don't know what to do, I just hug them. I would come
that.
up with I just come up with things like, I'd be like, oh, this is the trap hug. This is the bear hug. This is the claw hug. And like, I just basically, and I literally would, to the point where they're like, Dad, I'm good. Leave me alone. Right. That's to what level I was at, because I had to figure out a way, because was running a business on my own, and I was working from home for those hours. And I literally, I needed to create as much space as I could to do it. And so it's counterintuitive, and where you're thinking that, well, if I spend that time, it's away from work. Well, I made that investment and it paid me back. And I think the same with spouses, right? It's like, make the investment, it comes back. You know what I mean? And I think that isn't that mostly the case with Alison Armstrong. She says, do what's sort of counterintuitive.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally. I remember going through her course and being like, wow, that doesn't, you know, you would think the opposite. I remember her having one like the very end of her Understanding Men's course, and maybe Jess, you'll remember this better than I do, because it's been a while, but she had that whole energy equation for men and how they invest their energy. And I remember just being blown away by that, because I was like, that's not how my brain functions, you know?
I think you might be talking about the Worth It calculator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. James and I have been going through that, and it's counterintuitive to what you would think in a female mind, but a male brain is different. So it's kind of, you know, you have to think of that within kids too, and how their energies can play off each other, and what their hormone levels are, and how much cortisol they're getting, or all of that kind of plays in. But thank you, Scott, for kind of getting vulnerable with us and talking about your family, and also all the fun business advice. I know we've mentioned, you know, a couple people that have changed your life, Tony, Allison, and some books, but I kind of wanted to get more pointed with it. Are there any books or programs, podcasts that you would recommend, or that you've most sent or gifted to other folks, and really something that's changed your life that you can recommend for our listeners?
Awaken the Giant Within. I've gifted that book more than any other book of anything I've ever given away, without any question. And any experience, I've gotten more people to go to Tony Robbins events. And I don't want anyone to think that, you know, going, hey, he's just a Tony Robbins fan. No, I'm not a fan. I'm a student. The guy is like unbelievable track record, and he delivers, and he's delivered results to me, my family, and everyone. So many people I've seen transform their business, their life, that, you know, there's so many other books like Simon Sinek's Start With Your Why. That would be the next one. That was a great book. You know, there's so many books, but, you know, for me, if there was one I had to pick, if I was distilled to one, it would be that 1,000,000%.
Yeah, that's the first book I picked up by Tony, and I think the journey for me has been similar. I'm a student. I'm constantly learning, and he actually has an open call. I think it's in 2 days.
I saw that. I registered. Did you guys register?
Yeah, Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Getting on in. So we're on the same page there.
He did a private one with all of us Platts on Friday. It was 3.5 hours with him and Sage, and it was very enlightening. And
really?
Yeah. And it, you know, really, this will be good on Wednesday. I can't wait to see how many millions of people I think will be on that thing. I think it's going to be huge. And, you know, and I think, you know, I'll just let him unveil. I don't know what he said that we're not allowed to say or say from that call that we had. But I can just say that I think it's what people need to hear, and it's going to be awesome. And it just even gave me more confidence that, you know what, like we're resilient, like we're going to get through this. And, but the stark reality also is not like just an all optimist. I think some people think, oh, he's just Mr. Positive. Like, you know, like as he likes to say, there's no weeds, no weeds, but really there is. You got to pull the weeds out. Like, he's looking at this also realistically going, this is unbelievably unprecedented. This is the black swan. Who would have thought the entire world could be shutting down all of commerce all at the same time? What does this mean? what could happen. And I think that this is striking deep fear in the hearts of so many people for good reason. They got families to take care of and stuff. And so I would encourage anybody that can get on it, just get on that thing, because it'll be a really interesting call. But this will probably podcast to go up after that, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, but there will probably be a replay, and we can definitely, if there is a replay, we should link that in the show notes. Yeah, and also link in the show notes all the articles that Scott had published, and a couple other things I think that you brought up. We'll definitely make sure to link that in the show notes. Last time we talked, you were saying you were talking about how you sort of switched the direction of your focus in terms of like the type of entrepreneurs that you work for, that you want to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've been working for large brands and businesses, and I think after going through this self-reflection over the last couple of years and really assessing what's my why, and realizing that the purpose of my life is to be a groundswell for good. I want to generate waves of change that turns into a tsunami stoke. I'm really clear about it, and I really realized that I want to work with entrepreneurs that are making the world a better place and changing people's lives, or making their lives transform for the better. And so that's shifted me away from the traditional working with large brands or bigger companies, but still working with companies, but working with either entrepreneurs or businesses that are actually making this type of impact. And to me, that's what what I thought when you, at the very beginning, you were alluding to my nickname, which is Soulfully Stoked. I actually coined that after my soulfullystoked.com is the name of my new blog. Is basically because I was just so stoked at from a soulful level when I was in Australia, when I mentioned to you that I kind of did that transformation. So that's really what my aim is right now. Is I'm really helping I believe this new generation of, we'll call it compassionate commerce, mindful marketers, I'm also calling it, or individuals that are really looking at what's the contribution and purpose behind their business, not just and it's not to say that they're not about growth and success. Absolutely they are, but there's a deeper meaning for the owners and for the business itself. And that's kind of where I'm focused on. Is it's about more fulfillment. I love what I do. I'm obsessed with marketing and innovating and growth hacking and testing and experimenting, all that kind of stuff. But I really want to apply my skills and talents to something that's meaningful for me.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that too. I thought that was an important aspect of you that we should talk about on this show too, because you definitely are a really soulful dude. You and Jill together. Before we conclude, where can people find you or reach out to you if they have any other questions, or just follow you on your journey?
Yeah, probably the easiest and most common place is my company is Groundswell Marketing, and my podcast is Groundswell.fm. And probably the most active place I'm on is Instagram, which is at ScottMartin_org, or just go to scottmartin.org, and that'll have all my addresses there.
I will link your Instagram and your site in the show notes. And I know we didn't get a chance to touch on it, but congratulations on your journey of writing your book. And I'm very excited to read that now when it comes out, after speaking to you and just connecting with you. So congratulations on that journey, and sending you love and joy, and just so grateful that we've gotten to connect, especially during this time. So I appreciate all of the wisdom and the nuggets and the hacks, and just thank you for coming on. It was really nice to meet you.
Oh, thanks, guys. This is awesome. I think your podcast concept's amazing. We need more of you and your magic in the world.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Bold and Vulnerable podcast. For more information on today's speaker, please visit us at boldandvulnerablepodcast.com.
And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Let's keep spreading the love by being bold and vulnerable. Thank you. We love you.